What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Rats Report. It is time to talk about the Toronto Raptors. We got some updates about potential players that they could look to move and ones they may not. Now, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a robe, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, feeling a little bit sluggish. It is Sunday afternoon, so let's talk about the Toronto Raptors. If you're ready to watch this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you wish to hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, we do give out the shout out to whoever answers the trivia question correctly. So based on our last video, the shout out for today's video goes out to Kevin Ian. So Kevin, thank you so much for supporting this channel through your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Now let's talk about the Toronto Raptors. Just being reported by Mark Stein on Basketball on X. Shout out to them on Twitter. They're reporting that the Raptors are not looking to trade Jakob Poeltl, but are open to moving Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown. The Raptors to this point have resisted mounting trade interest in center Jakob Poeltl. League sources say Bruce Brown Jr., of course, we know on an expiring contract, $23 million contract, and Kelly Olynyk in year one of a fairly movable salary are regarded as coveted veterans Toronto is most open to trading before the trade deadline. Now let's talk about Jakob Poeltl first, because it seems like one of those cases of where the Raptors are playing hardball, where they want to trade him, but they are obviously not getting the trade offers that they are necessarily looking for. So this is how modern negotiations work with general managers and executive around the NBA. You simply tell teams you are not willing to trade him. And again, we've seen this with Mikal Bridges on the not New York Knicks, excuse me, Brooklyn Nets. He did get traded to New York Knicks, but the Brooklyn Nets said, we're not trading him in. And until they got that really good offer, then they, of course, they decided, this was the best deal to take out of all the deals they were going to get. And the Toronto Raptors are probably going to do something very similar. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that they're not going to look to keep him. I mean, the center position is very thin already on the Raptors roster, but when you take a look at his contract and, talk about how much he has left, I mean, he really has 1.5 years left. He has a player option after next season. So do the Raptors really want to pay him 27, 28, whatever the new market's going to be for centers, after the following season? I don't necessarily think so. So again, that's that. But in terms of Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown, let's quickly talk about their production and what they have done around the NBA throughout their careers. So taking a look at Kelly Olynyk, again, he's a serviceable big. He's about 33 years old now. His last season with the Raptors, obviously, production-wise, was a lot better. He also averaged much higher, of course, statistical categories-wise. His stats were much better last season, considering he played a lot more minutes. He was getting more touches, 12.7 points last season with the Raptors. He also had 5.6 rebounds, 4.6 assists for a center. Again, I don't know if you can call him a center. He's more of a forward, but he does play the center position. Is amazing. For assist column for a center power forward to have that is quite amazing. Of course, his numbers have dipped a little bit this season, averaging only 7.2 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 2.1 assists. Still fairly pretty good. When you talk about, a lot of teams would absolutely love to have that. And of course, the most important thing is he can shoot lights out from the three-point line. Again, not on high volume shots, but still a really good three-point shooter, considering he's 6'11", so it's a luxury to have in today's NBA, and he's shooting 47% from the three-point line on almost 2 attempts per game. Now, in terms of Bruce Brown, let's quickly talk about him as well. Again, in terms of stats-wise, he's not having the best statistical categories this season compared to previous seasons, but again, he's only played 3 games. He's coming back from a knee surgery. He's only averaging 6.7 points this season, 2 rebounds, as compared to last season where he averaged 3.8 rebounds and 9.6 points. So again, it's one of those cases where with both Kelly and Bruce, it was a case of both of them being really injured and not playing a lot. But as the season progresses, I think obviously the Raptors want to showcase particularly Bruce Brown a lot more, considering his contract is expiring, and considering that you do obviously want something decent in return because he is a good role player. Now let's talk about both of these players and which teams from both Eastern and Western conferences could be interested. Now let's start with Kelly Olynyk from the Eastern Conference. We've got the Pistons, the Pacers, and the Hornets that I view as teams that could potentially want to trade for Kelly Olynyk. Pacers, of course, love their stretch big man. Pistons do need three-point shooting as well, and the Hornets could always use some veteran pieces, and I'll talk about the Hornets in just one moment, but the Pistons and Pacers is a little bit challenging in terms of salary. Kelly Olynyk is making $12.8 million, which is going to be hard for both teams to kind of muster up that much money in a trade. So again, the likelihood that those two teams become trading partners with the Raptors is unlikely unless a third team gets involved. The reason I have the Hornets on here is because Grant Williams is injured for the season. He's also got multiple years left on his contract. So if the Hornets are looking to add someone now, particularly someone that can, stretch the floor for them. And given their history of injuries, particularly at the center position, I could definitely see the Hornets flipping Grant Williams for Kelly Olynyk, maybe attaching a second round pick for taking on that contract. And again, considering that he's out for the season as well, that is why I have the Hornets on there. In terms of some of the Western Conference teams, you look at the Grizzlies. I know they need a rim protector, but when you look at John Morant, you see the way he attacks the basket. It just seems like Grizzlies should be a team that would want a stretch big man. Again, they're not necessarily looking for a starting center. Obviously, they wouldn't say no to it. Don't get me wrong, but in this position, it wouldn't be bad. And they obviously do have some contracts in Luke Kennard and other players that Brandon Clark, they could potentially throw in a deal as well. In terms of the Warriors, similar situation again. Steph Curry, his dominance over the NBA, if you want to call it that, with respect to him, he's had some great moments, also not some great moments. It's winding down, and the Warriors need to do everything in their power to win. Having a stretch big man out there would really help. Obviously, Steph Curry is one of the best 3-point shooters ever. Having Kelly Olynyk just frees up so much spot to really just attack the basket. So again, like I said, having a center or forward that you could play at the 3-point line that can shoot and stretch the floor just opens up the paint so much more. And Kings are in a weird situation there. Now, why do I say the Kings? Because they have Domantas Sabonis, who, look, he can hit threes. That's not the strength of his game. That's not really, that's not something he's great at. So most of the time he's operating in the paint, and then you consider DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox. They like to operate in the mid range or attack the basket as well. So again, for a team like that, they definitely could use a backup center that could shoot a lot of threes as well, space the floor for you guys, let DeMar and De'Aaron Fox really just attack the basket. So that could be an interesting team to keep an eye on as well. And again, they do have some contracts. Maybe they want to throw in a potential trade. Again, I don't necessarily see the Raptors wanting to take on someone like a Kevin Huerter in particular. But if they are going to take on bad contracts, the Raptors, that is, they probably have to likely get at least a couple second round picks. Again, do the Kings do that? I'm not so sure. Maybe they look to, acquire Trey Lyles instead. That could be an interesting option for the Toronto Raptors. But let's talk about the Lakers and the Suns. Again, two aging teams similar to the Warriors. The Suns, I will say it's very hard to make salaries work just because of how close, not even close, they're way over the luxury tax. They're second apron team, whatever they are. They're spending a crazy amount of money. It's really hard. So again, the Suns could be interested. The likelihood they get Kelly is very unlikely. The Lakers could be fascinating. They have Gabe Vincent, of course. They have Rui Hachimura. They have Jared Vanderbilt as well. Again, not the greatest contracts, especially with Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt. They got long-term money tied up. And again, you would have to at the very least, if I'm the Raptors, ask for 2 second-round picks in return for Kelly Olynyk if you're getting a bad contract like that as well. Now let's talk about Bruce Brown and what are some of the teams from both conferences that could be interested in him as well. So starting with the Eastern Conference teams, I could definitely see the Milwaukee Bucks being interested in Bruce Brown. Again, it's such a difficult situation considering the new CBA rules though. It's just you can't make trades if you're past the luxury tax or you're close to it, and that's pretty much all the playoff teams. And just considering the Bucks don't have a ton, I mean, they're not going to trade Chris Middleton for Bruce Brown. That'd be absolutely ridiculous unless they're trying to get off his contract. Even then, again, it's a very weird situation. I don't see the Bucks actually acquiring Bruce Brown, but they're definitely a team that has been rumored and linked to Bruce Brown in the past. The Miami Heat, I have them as an asterisk here for a reason. The whole Jimmy Butler situation is so messy. But you know what? I will say one thing. If you've seen my last video, just with a lot of teams, if the Miami Heat do look to trade, again, do look to trade Jimmy Butler, and a lot of teams aren't able to make up that 48 whatever million dollars Jimmy Butler's making, the Raptors could get involved as a third team as well. But again, that situation's so messy. The only reason they would want to acquire Bruce Brown, again, aside from the fact that it could be a salary filler in a Jimmy Butler trade, is because they want to make the playoffs. But just considering how messy the situation is, that's why I've got an asterisk. They have been a team that has been linked to Bruce Brown in the past as well. And again, not a lot of people have mentioned this. I could really see the Philadelphia 76ers wanting Bruce Brown. Now, why do I say this? If you're familiar with Nick Nurse, the one thing you know about him is he plays his starters heavy minutes, and then he'll play sixth or seventh man off the bench about 20, 25 minutes a game, because that's pretty much as big as his rotation will get come playoff time, but also in really key matchups during the regular season as well. He doesn't like to play a lot of bench guys. So if you have a Nick Nurse team, you do need to have very capable veterans coming off the bench that can provide quality minutes, because he's going to be playing a lot of minutes for those guys as well. So again, The money is always the question. How are they going to make the money work is very unlikely. And just considering the Raptors and the 76ers are division rivals, I don't see that happening as well. Now, moving on to the Western Conference, we got the Denver Nuggets. Again, the asterisk because the money that Bruce Brown makes is a lot, is $23 million, and the Nuggets won't be able to make that up in salaries to give up to the Toronto Raptors. Again, the Warriors to have them here, they need smart, intelligent players like Bruce Brown to really just feed off of Steph Curry, to feed off of some of their main guys as well. And I could definitely see them being interested in. Look, they do have some contracts they can potentially make up as well, right? So you got slow mo there. I don't know if they'd necessarily treat Buddy Hield. That I mean, he kind of fits in well there. I know he hasn't been playing well lately, but there's a bunch of contracts they can kind of throw together to acquire Bruce Brown. The Lakers and the Clippers. I have the Clippers, who I'll talk about in just a moment. The Lakers have actually been one of the more teams, one of the teams that's name has come up more than any other team when it comes to Bruce Brown. And again, similarly to when I talked about Kelly Olynyk, the reason the Lakers are here is they have a lot of bad contracts. They have Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt. Those two contracts in particular, they could mash up and then try to acquire Bruce Brown. You get off those contracts. What the Lakers would give up in terms of picks and assets that the Raptors would be satisfied with is difficult to see. You know, Rob Pelinka doesn't, in recent years anyways, he hasn't made a lot of trades, and it's for obvious reasons because the only valuable assets that the Lakers have is mostly picks. Again, aside from the fact that they have Dalton Connect now, but they're not going to give him up. It's picks, and they don't really want to give up those picks unless it's for a star player. So again, the Lakers and the Raptors trade is very unlikely given how stubborn both the executives and general managers are on both sides. The Clippers could be a fascinating team. Again, I say the Clippers for a reason. They do have Norman Powell. They do have Terrence Mann as well at the shooting guard position. Both of those guys can kind of play small forward as well. They have PJ Ducker's contract. So will they add that up with another contract and try to acquire Bruce Brown to get off money, much like a lot of teams? That is to be seen. So again, these are the teams I have listed that might be interested from both conferences with Bruce Brown, but just given how large his contract is, the likelihood that happens is very thin. So I'll leave that up to you to, decide or comment down below who you think could be interested on Bruce Brown's contract and just obviously wanting him to help your team during the playoffs. So I'll leave that to you guys. Give me one team from each conference that you think could really use Bruce Brown. Let me know in the comment section below. And with that being said, let's get into our trivia question for today. And since we're talking about Bruce Brown, the city Bruce Brown was born in is one of the teams that plays in the Eastern Conference. Which team is it? Is it A, the Brooklyn Nets? Is it B, the New York Knicks? Is it C, Atlanta Hawks? Or is it D, Boston Celtics? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So that will be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.